Well, what do you think? Asked my wife. Do you think this might spice up our relationship a little? Patricia is a very lively woman, and the idea of vivifying her even more seemed unnecessary to me. Well, I have to admit, I never thought about it, I said. Should we just rent a cheesy movie or something? Think how exciting it will be to actually be there, she said. We'll see real live people, not some tired actors. These are real people. Jack and Pam have been going there for a while. That way we can come in as their guests. It wasn't the best advertisement. I never really liked Jack and Pam. Let's say she was quite sexy, in a promiscuous way, but she always looked at me the way a cat looks at fish in an aquarium. It was a scrutinizing look, and I never liked being someone's tuna salad. Jack was a slippery guy. He was a car salesman, and you know all the cliches. He fit in very well with them, and he was always too familiar with Patricia, in my opinion. I don't consider this a recommendation, I told her. Everything they're involved with is probably shady. They make me sick, and I feel like I need to take a shower every time we meet, I said. No, I think I'll say no, Pat. She snorted and blushed. This was definitely a sign that she was angry. She had a short temper, as I discovered over the years. She's been trying to get me to go to this private club for a couple of weeks now. I'm guessing it was one of those sex clubs. I never liked swings. Ever since my sister talked me into trying to jump out of one in the park when I was 9, I've been avoiding them like the plague. That broken ankle convinced me. Well, I can't go without you. She puffed out her cheeks in a cute way. For couples only. I wonder how long they stay as a couple, I thought. I'm sure it's a divorce factory. You know Jack and Pam have been married 3 times already, right? I think they'll be moving on to a 4th before the end of the year. Yes, but we have a really strong marriage, she countered. There's no way that just going and looking around the place is going to cause us problems. I agreed that we had a strong marriage, or at least that was my impression. Obviously, I was wrong. I'm really not interested in watching random strangers try to seduce each other, I said. What's the point, Pat? Just to spice up our lives, she said. Just think how much it would turn you on if some beautiful woman out there made an attempt to win you over. I don't think there are any beautiful women walking around there, I said. Rather, easily accessible girls and bitches. I would be afraid to touch one of them. I would probably contract some incurable disease. The very thought made me shudder. What's wrong with you, Patricia? Don't be funny, she said. When couples have been married as long as we have, things get a little stale, don't you think? I think you read some stupid article in Cosmo or something, I said. Perhaps you were talking to boring people who need to spice up their lives. Did you read some pointless article about 10 ways to get your husband to have sex instead of mowing the lawn or something like that? No, I don't think things get old unless you're an idiot or a bitch. You seemed pretty fresh last night when you moaned like you were dying. We make love 3 or 4 times a week, sometimes twice when we can. She looked embarrassed. Don't get me wrong, Daniel. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with us. We make love, and you always satisfy me. Don't you want to just have sex sometimes? Just take some hot woman and make out with sex with her until she loses consciousness? No, I have absolutely no interest in some hot woman, I said. I have a hot woman, and I regularly have sex with her until I pass out. I happen to be married to her. She smiled back. Thank you, dear, but aren't you tired of the same old woman? No, I'm not tired, I assured her. If I were that kind of man, I wouldn't marry you. I'd just be taking girls. She came and sat on my lap, beginning what ended up happening in 3 different rooms of the house. I thought that was the end of this conversation and put it out of my mind. By many standards, we were a fairly typical couple. We did and enjoyed the same things as most other people. We became a little too relaxed by the time we turned 40. We both gained 20 pounds, didn't try very hard to stay romantic, and there was some distance between us. Patricia noticed this before I realized it. Daniel, we need to do something, she said as we were cleaning up after dinner one night. Okay, What do you mean? I want us to join a gym, she said. I wish we had personal trainers to get us in shape, because I feel like you're not attracted to me anymore and your stamina in bed isn't that good. I was a little shocked, but it seemed like a good idea. I think you're right, I said. I'll do it, or do you want to do it? I'll do it, she said. I also want us to have dates in the evenings, Daniel. I don't feel like we're as close as we used to be, and I don't like it. I feel fat and old, and I feel like you don't love me as much anymore, like before. Patricia, you are as beautiful to me as the day we met, I told her. I realize we've lost our focus a bit. I'm sorry I didn't notice. I'll work on everything you mentioned. We joined a gym, and she saw a nutritionist. She became a vegan. It was okay for her, but I wasn't going to do it. I switched to a low-carb diet, worked hard at the gym, worked out with a trainer 4 days a week, and over the next 3 months lost 30 pounds, redistributing some of the weight from my sides to my upper body. Pat had a harder time losing weight, even though I knew she was working just as hard as I was. It was a slow process for her, and she often became frustrated. I caught her crying a few times, and we talked about how hard it was for her while I held her. I signed us up for dancing, and when we finished learning Oriental swing, we signed up for other classes. It was fun and good exercise. A year later, we were both in the best shape of our lives, and we had found meaning in our relationship again as husband and wife. Again, I thought everything was fine. That was until she started talking about going to a sex club. After that first conversation, I thought it was over. I was wrong. Over the next 3 months, whenever Patricia thought I was in a vulnerable state, she complained about going to the club, the diversity of our sex life, and other absurd nonsense, which I was completely tired of. Think about it, Daniel, she said. We joined the gym, and it was great for us physically. We went dancing. It was great for our relationship. It might be the same for our sex life. I suggested that we try going to not sex clubs, just dance clubs, and we did that. We went 3 times to 3 different clubs. Men asked her to dance, and she seemed to enjoy it. I didn't feel threatened, and it felt good. We had great love-making sessions on all 3 of those nights. I mentioned it a 4th time, and she said, "Daniel, I don't want to go." "Why not?" I asked. "It's fun. You get asked to dance a lot, and I like watching you dance with you." "Have you seen people in these clubs?" she asked. "They're probably at least 15 years younger than us. They're all in their 20s, and I just feel old and out of place." It was Friday evening when I finally decided that the matter with the club would not end. She cooked a delicious dinner and almost broke me in bed. We were recovering from a long and stressful event, and she mentioned it again. "Danielle, Pam told me that the club is having an open day for new couples. I think we should go and just have a look." I sat up on the bed, and she fell off me where she lay half on top of me. She seemed taken aback by the sudden change of position. "Patricia, do you want a divorce?" I asked. She looked at me as if I had grown a third eye. "Of course not," she said. "Why are you asking this?" "I don't know how I can make it clearer that I'm not interested," I told her. "The only possible reason for visiting this place is to meet someone else. Is that what you want?" She lowered her eyes. "No, at least not right away," she said. "If we get used to it and like it, I think we could at least discuss it." "I've thought about it and we're discussing it," I told her. "After careful consideration, my answer is that there is no way in hell I would set foot in that place. I have also decided that this is the last conversation I want to have about clubs, condiments, or anything else." "But," she began. "No buts," I said. "I see 2 options here. One is you get out of bed right now, go sleep somewhere else, and I call a lawyer in the morning. We get divorced as quickly as possible, after which you can find all the spice you want, whenever you want." She looked shocked. "No, Daniel, this is not what I want." "Okay," I said. "The other option is to visit a psychologist and family counselor. I will arrange this tomorrow." Why do you need to see a psychologist? She asked. I must be crazy, I told her. Actually, a psychologist is for you. A marriage counselor is for us. A psychologist will help you figure out why you are trying to destroy our marriage. A counselor will try to help us understand whether our marriage can survive. I'm fine, she almost screamed. You have problems. If you would stop being so possessive and realize that this could be so good for us, there wouldn't be a problem. Are you really that insecure? I rolled my eyes. Why is it that whenever a man says he wants exactly what his wife promised him on their wedding day, some bitch always talks about him being possessive and insecure? What did you just say? She seemed to pick up on the whore comment. I see that you chose the first option, I said. Go out into the hallway and I'll call the lawyer in the morning. She dug in, but she weighed 120 pounds and I weighed 220. She was 5'4" and I was 6'2". It was just a matter of physics. I picked her up, carried her struggling body to the door, dodged her blows, put her behind the door, closed and locked the bedroom. She knocked on the door, quietly, apparently not wanting to wake the girls. I didn't want to wake them either. I could foresee some problems on this side. Our girls were almost the center of our lives. Mine, anyway. They were twins, 19-year-old first-year college students. They chose a public university about 15 miles from home, so they could stay home and commute to classes. They had the grades to study anywhere, and we could afford it too. But that's not what they wanted, and I was thrilled that it wasn't what they wanted. It was clear from them that they were our children. They inherited my height and tanning ability and blonde hair and looks from their mother. They were slender yet muscular, tall, slender beauties who turned heads wherever they went. I loved them with all my heart. They won't be happy. I lay awake, trying to understand what was happening. It was obvious that Patricia had no intention of backing down. I patiently treated this madness as a philosophical discussion. I'm done with this. I meant what I said about the two options. I didn't know what I would say to the girls. Liv and Kat, thinking about their reactions, kept me awake late into the night. It was Saturday morning, and I woke up at the usual time. I was tired, but I had an internal alarm clock that woke me up at 6 every morning. I mumbled something, got out of bed, unlocked the door, and went into the shower. By the time I had my second cup of coffee, I felt human. Patricia usually slept late on Saturdays, and so did the girls, but at 9 in the morning they came down the stairs, dressed for tennis. They had bags and rackets, and they looked so beautiful that my heart filled with pride. I forgot they told us they were having a club match. Hi, Dad, Liv said, and they both came over to hug me and kiss me. Are you sure you don't want to come watch us play? Asked Kat. I don't want to interfere with your vibe, I said. There'll probably be 50 guys there just to watch you too. Kat rolled her eyes. Really, there will be a lot of spectators there, and there will be parents. Please, Dad, I think we can win the doubles. Well, I certainly didn't want to spend the day with an angry Patricia. I loved watching them play anyway. Are you sure? I asked. They both screamed as they would have done as little girls getting what they wanted. Oh yeah, Liv said. Get dressed. This is going to be awesome. I went and changed into my best shorts and a nice white polo, grabbed my iPad and sunscreen and headed back downstairs. They were eating some horrible-looking cereal, so I took their bags and took them to the garage. I decided to take Thrackhawk. I only took it out on special occasions. The girls loved it, and it seemed like a special occasion. I loaded up their stuff and went back to see if they were ready. They put their bowls in the dishwasher and were ready. Their eyes sparkled when they saw us taking the Jeep. Do you want to drive? I asked, shaking my keys. They played rock, paper, scissors, and Olivia won. I'll go back, Katerina declared her rights. Shotgun, she kissed my cheek. I got into the car and we set off. Liv sped up at every traffic light and we had goofy smiles on our faces. They were both very good drivers, except for that need to speed up like crazy at traffic lights, and I trusted them. They played terrible music, though. Liv was driving about 5 miles per hour over the speed limit, staying in the middle or left lane, and we quickly made it to the complex. I received a message just as we were unloading the girls' things. It was from Pat. "Where are you?" "At tennis with the girls," I replied. There was no answer for a minute, and I could imagine steam rising from her. "We need to talk," she finally sent. Later, I turned off the phone. The girls had already qualified for the finals, and they played together like a well-oiled machine. The team they played with was good. One of the girls, a tall black girl, had a killer serve when she hit the first ball. Liv and Kat had a hard time dealing with her and lost serves when she served. The other girl was not such a strong opponent, and they attacked her second serve with powerful passing shots. They took her serve twice and held their own in the first set, winning 6-4. In the second set, the tall girl's serve didn't go so well. She missed many of the first balls, and they won 6-3, ending the match in straight sets. They received a beautiful trophy and went to take a shower and change clothes. It was about 2 p.m. when we were ready, and the girls were starving. Of course, Dad had to take them to eat. It didn't bother me at all. Kat took us to one of those fancy burger joints, and I loved it, with one of my little angels on either side of me in the round booth. We grabbed some frozen custard concrete for dessert, and I hugged it. I needed to say this, and it was one of the hardest conversation starters I've ever had in my entire life. "I need to tell you kids," I said. 2 pairs of large brown eyes looked at me. "Oh," Liv said. "Sounds serious." "Speak, Dad," said Kat, holding my hand, which lay on her shoulder, and pressing her soft cheek to it. "So, Mom and I ran into some problems. I just gave it away." Kat sighed. "Yes, I was afraid of it." "How did you know?" I asked. "Remember last week when we went to Rick and Chelsea's?" Liv asked. I nodded. "We played board games and came home to pick up our skydive game. They were big fans of board games. We walked in through the backyard, and when we walked in, Mom was on the phone. We heard her talking to that bitch Pam. "We hate Pam, Dad," Liv said, "and Jack is a creep. The look he gives me makes my skin crawl." I squeezed them. "What did she tell Pam?" "She was talking about getting you into some club," Kat said.
Yeah, she was talking about a sex club or something, Liv added. "It was disgusting, Dad."
We were terrified. We just left and went to the park to talk about it. We were hoping it would just go away. "What's wrong with Mom, Dad? She's like she's going crazy or something." "I have no idea," I told them. "She's been talking about it for months. She has some idea that it will diversify our marriage. I've told her that we're already diversified enough and that I'm not interested, dozens of times. She just can't stop." "So what are you going to do?" asked Kat. "This whole thing kind of escalated last night," I said. "We just finished, you know." "God, that was awkward." Both nodded. "Anyway, she mentioned it again. I lost my temper. I told her she needed to see a psychologist and we needed a marriage counselor. Either that or we should file for divorce." They both gasped. "Oh my God," Olivia said. "We didn't know it was that serious." "Dad," Kat said, "we all need to talk to Mom. Please don't do anything until we talk to her, okay?" "No, I don't want to involve you in this," I objected. "This doesn't concern you." "Are you crazy?" Kat objected. "How can we not be involved? How can you say that this doesn't affect us? We live with you, damn it. Can you imagine if you and your mother divorced? It wouldn't affect us." "No, baby, that's not what I meant," I said. "I know, I don't know what I mean, girls. It breaks my heart. It's bad enough that this shit is happening. I don't want you to get hurt." Suddenly, tears flowed down my cheeks. "Let's get out of here," Liv said. I threw the money on the table, it slid out, lifted me to my feet, and we walked out, my daughters pressed to each of my arms. Kat took us to the park near our house. They took my hands and rocked them like they always did. We spent many happy days in this park, and the memories came over me. Pushing 2 little blondes on a swing, listening to those adorable little voices shouting, "Look, Daddy," when they did a particularly daring stunt on set. I remembered Kat falling down a slide and breaking her arm when she was 7, Liv doing somersaults out of a swing and almost making me die of fear. It filled my heart with love and agony at the same time. Will my life become just a pale memory of a happy time? They sat down next to me on the bench, pressed themselves against my sides, and stretched one of my arms over each of their shoulders. Seriously, Dad, Olivia began. What's going on with Mom? Are you having problems? In bed? Jesus, Liv. I started, but Kat interrupted me. Dad, we're 19 now. I know this isn't something you're comfortable talking to us about. It's awkward for us too, but it's important to the question. We love you, Dad. You can talk to us. I squeezed them. I know, baby, but still, I'm not aware of any problems of this nature. I don't have Ed, okay? We may not be 19, but try. Mom never mentioned that she was unhappy. Well, until all this started with the club. Maybe she's going through menopause or something, Liv asked. She didn't tell me anything, if that's the case, I said. I know she still gets her period. We're 47, so it might be an issue at some point, but I don't think it's now. Dad, I don't like telling you this, Kat said, looking a little uncomfortable. But Mom was always a little weird, you know. I chuckled. No, I don't know. What are you talking about? She looked a little embarrassed. Well, you know, she's always been into astrology. We always thought she'd have fun with it. It doesn't hurt anyone. She went vegan a couple of years ago and got into yoga. And her crystals, Liv intervened. Yes, Kat continued. It was never anything that hurt, so we just went with it. Until now, I guess, but she just gets carried away with these things. Then she tries to drag us in, and you. I swear, Dad, sometimes it feels like we're adults and she's a teenager. Liv looked thoughtful. We talked about something in our psychology class called focalization. It's when you're so passionate about something that you focus only on that and ignore everything else. You want to do something questionable, but you only think about the positives and nothing else. What are the disadvantages? It seems to me that this characterizes my mother to some extent. I was a little shocked. I never thought of Patricia in those terms, but they were right. Well, I think I understand what you mean, I said. Now that you say it, she really is. She's so focused on how hot it will be to visit this club that she doesn't think about all the negative things. I think we need to go home and talk to her, Kat said. I mean, you're talking about divorced Dad. Maybe she'll see how this could affect us all. Liv took my face in both of her slender hands and turned me around so she could look me straight in the eyes. She gave me a soft kiss. Dad, I want you to know that you have every right to be upset. This is kind of gross, and the thought of you and Mom, well, it scares me. I'll support you no matter what. What's going to happen, but we really need to talk to Mom. Kat pulled my face away from Liv and repeated her gestures. Same thing, Dad, she said. We just have to do it. I felt as if a weight had been lifted from my shoulders. I knew that at that moment everything would be fine. I have my daughters, and there is nothing better than this feeling. I stood up, pulled them to their feet, and hugged them. I cried. Katerina, Olivia, I don't know what I did to deserve you, but I thank God every day for you. I love you with all my heart, and that will never change. I just had to say it. I'm so proud of you and love you so much. Two pairs of huge, tear-filled eyes looked at me, and they both pressed against my chest. Love you too, Dad, Liv said. Very much, Kat purred. We returned to Truckhawk and Kat took the wheel. We all sighed at the same time and then laughed. Despite the growing tension, I think all three of us knew that we would be okay. I had a lump in my throat when we pulled into the garage, and I thought the girls must feel it too. We gathered their things, and it was time. Pat was sitting on the couch watching something on TV when we walked in. She stood up and hugged the girls, asked about their tennis match, and then said, Daniel, I need to talk to you. Mom, we need to talk to you, all three of us, Kat said. Pat glanced at me. I really need to talk to your father alone, she said. Not now, Mom, Liv said. Can we sit down? Anyone need something to drink? I'll grab a soda. Kat also wanted a soda, and I asked for a bottle of water. Patricia got the coffee, and we sat down, an awkward silence filling the room until Olivia returned. "So, what's this about?" asked Pat. "We know, Mom," Liv said. Pat glanced at me again. "Yeah, we talked to Dad at lunch," Liv said, "but we already knew. We heard you on the phone about 3 weeks ago with that bitch Pam." "Do you really want your daughter to call my friends that?" Pat asked me. I shrugged. "If the shoe fits." "Okay, can we try to be a little less confrontational?" said Kat. "Let's just say we knew, Mom, and we know. Tell us what you think." Patricia was clearly furious, mostly probably at me, but she wasn't happy with the girls either. "I don't have to report to you," she announced to the entire room. "This is happening, and there is nothing you can do about it. This conversation is over, and I don't want to hear another word from either of you about this. This is between Daniel and me. You can go to your rooms." "Are you crazy?" Kat was furious. "We're 19 years old. You're not sending us to our rooms. Liv and I will leave this house and move into a dorm if you think you can talk to us like that. We were trying to have a civil conversation. You're probably not interested." Patricia went upstairs and slammed the bedroom door. We looked at each other for a minute. "I think it went well," Olivia said. This made me laugh, and the next moment my two little ones climbed onto my lap, almost turning me over backwards. I hugged them tightly. "I didn't know it was that serious," Kat said. "What are you going to do, Dad?" "Well, that it'll happen made it pretty clear to me what she was thinking," I mentioned. "Yes, I'm so sorry, Dad." Olivia kissed my cheek. "I think she needs therapy." I suggested it, I told them. She was completely against it. I mentioned the marriage counselor, and she said the problem was my possessiveness and insecurity. I don't know what to do. Do my kids have any suggestions? "Make an appointment with a marriage counselor," Kat said. "Just do it. Tell her when and where. If she comes, maybe you can work something out. If she doesn't come, you're basically out of options," Liv said. "Well, except nuclear." The next day, I was playing a video game with my friend, John, procrastinating. I noticed a message from the game server. "Player 3 has entered the game." I was looking for John, sneaking up behind him to stab him in the back, when my screen flashes red. "Crap, you have been killed by Player 3, the message read. I received a message from Player 3 while he was dancing on my dead body. "Dad, this is Kat. Stop playing and make an appointment." I learned when to obey. I did exactly that. I made an appointment, gave Patricia the details, and spoke with a very helpful woman. I did it alone. Pat never showed up, and I attended 3 sessions over the next month. Alone. Our house has turned into an Arctic one. Pat barely spoke to any of us, and it only got worse. A month later, she announced that she was going out somewhere in the evening, and there was no point in waiting for her. She left, and I sent a message to the girls. They returned 3 hours later, and it was clear that they had been crying. I hugged them, and the story poured out of them. They left the football game and went to Jack and Pam's. Pat's car was there, and they parked at the end of the street. After a while, a big red truck pulled up, and a guy got out and went inside. 10 minutes later, the 4 of them left and went to the players' club. They went inside, and 2 hours later the girls left. "We talked to the doorman," Kat said. "He wouldn't let us in, but we walked around the building and saw the windows. Mom was sitting in a big chair with that guy kissing. People were dancing. She was dancing with a guy on the truck and a few others. She always came back to him. His hands were everywhere on it. After a while, they got up and went into the corridor. We couldn't see, but we know what happened, Dad, just like you." I sighed. "Yeah, I guess I do. I'm sorry, but I can't stay here. I'll file for divorce as soon as I can. I'm sorry, girls, but I'm leaving." "Where?" Liv asked. "I'll pack my things and check into Adams, I guess," I said. "Oh, no," Liv countered. "You're not leaving. We'll go with you, right, Kat?" Absolutely, Kat said. You're not going to some fancy hotel without us. Is it true? I asked. Do you want to come with me? Of course, Liv said. We told you, Dad. We will always be with you. Maybe tomorrow we can see a new place, Kat suggested. You won't get rid of us, Dad. We'll stay with you. You need us, and I think you need us. What about your mom? I asked. What with her? Said Liv. She'll get what she wants. You and I. I have never felt so humble in my life. My daughters were with me. Adams was a really posh place, and this will be our base until we find something permanent. They packed their clothes as if we were going on a week-long trip, grabbed their books and school supplies, and I did the same, packing my work things. We loaded up the Trackhawk, the girls jumped in their cars to follow me, and we began our adventure. We checked into the Adams despite not having a reservation, and were given a two-room suite with bedrooms opening onto a common living room with a small kitchen. Both bedrooms had king-size beds and looked cozy. The hotel had a great restaurant that I knew we would frequent, but I had always loved cooking for my girls, and that was what I planned to do. I'll stop at the grocery store on my way home from work. Around 2 a.m., I vaguely heard a notification on my phone. I wasn't going to be awake enough to respond to any messages. I slept surprisingly well considering. Months of constant stress and drama had drained most of my emotions. I found that after a while you're not so upset, you're just tired, exhausted, and want it to end. I had to be in the office at 9. Olivia started class at 8, but Katerina didn't have her first class until 10. Liv left when I left my bedroom. The breakfast in the room was bad, but they liked Pop-Tarts and breakfast bars and that kind of food, so she smacked on Pop-Tarts while packing her things. She gave me a kiss, leaving crumbs on my cheek, and left. I made a cup of coffee and ate some granola while packing up my work stuff. After a while, I heard Kat moving, her shower running, and as I was leaving, she came out, gave me a kiss, and I went to work. Fortunately, my job did not require constant presence. I was a freelance problem solver for financial institutions and really only worked when problems arose. It could be stressful, but most of the time I was doing other things and waiting for my computer to notify me that I needed to intervene. I called my friend Jeff, an attorney who worked full-time for my business, and he recommended a family law specialist who also worked with him. The earliest she, Angela Abbott, could see me was Wednesday, so I made an appointment, received instructions on what I needed to bring to the appointment, and felt like I could prepare a few things. I logged onto the internet and started looking for townhouses to rent. Ideally, it would be halfway between the girls' college and my office. I was in the office about half the time anyway. I could work anywhere, and although I had staff in the office, most of my work could be done elsewhere. I was initially thinking about condos, but I liked some privacy. I wanted us to live in a nice area, and a townhouse seemed to offer that without having to purchase. I contacted the agent for 2 attractive properties and arranged evening meetings so the girls could visit them too. I knew that they would want to be consultants in our endeavor. That day, Patricia made dozens of calls and sent messages, and I did not answer any of them. The girls returned from school when I arrived at our suite and said that she had also bombarded their phones with messages. The only way to stop it is to talk to her, I said. I'll call her, put her on speaker, and we'll see what's going on. Okay? They agreed, and I made the call, feeling the anxiety in my fingers so that I could barely press the right buttons. Pat answered on the first ring. Where the hell are you, and why aren't you answering me? She almost screamed. Where are the girls, and why don't they answer the phone? Mom, Kat said. We all know what you did. What did you expect? That we'd all be waiting for you with a bonfire outside the front door when you got back from your spicy little trip so we could cuddle and sing Kumbaya? There was silence for a moment. Olivia, are you there too? Asked Pat. Yes, Mom. We're all here. Why did you call us? I was worried about you, Pat said. You left, and I didn't know where you were or what happened. It's strange that you didn't worry about us while you were in your club, I noted. I was going to go home and you all knew it. she said. Well, we're not going back home, I said. Where are you? We need to talk, Daniel, she said. I think it was time to talk before you went out last night, Mom, Kat said. Maybe a couple of months ago when we tried to talk to you, remember? When you left in a huff and said you weren't interested. So what are you going to do? Asked Pat. Are you all going to run away like cowards? When there's a bomb in your house, you don't stay there, I said. You leave and call the bomb squad. What's that supposed to mean? She asked. Who are sappers? I think it's called lawyers, Liv said. We heard her sigh. Don't do anything stupid, Danielle, Pat said. Just come home and talk to me. Okay, I went too far, but you were so stubborn and I just. I'll talk to you when I know more, I told her. I'm not going home. We all want you to stop bombarding our phones. We all have your number. When we want to talk to you, we'll let you know. Girls, will you just come home? Her voice broke a little. I need to see you, talk to you. After a whispered meeting, we'll meet you for lunch tomorrow, Liv said. We heard a sigh. Really? Will you meet me for lunch? Has it come to this? Is that how your father turned you away from me? Listen, Mom, Kat said sharply. If you say one more bad thing about Dad, try to pin it on him. You can forget about dinner or us ever having to do with you. We told him what you were doing first, not the other way around. Pat was silent for a minute. What time tomorrow and where? She asked. They agreed, and I ended the call. The three of us sat in silence for several minutes. I'm hungry, Kat finally said. Shall we go out to dinner? We all kind of moved around in a fog during dinner, and it wasn't until we were in the elevator heading back to our suite that Liv said, I want to go to the pool and sit in the jacuzzi. Are you with me? We agreed, and 30 minutes later, we were on our way to the pool. We played a little, both of them trying to drown me. Then I swam a few laps while they rested. They wanted to go into the jacuzzi, so we walked behind the plants and trees to the gate. We were there alone for a while, then looked up when we heard the gate open. Two women entered, apparently mother and daughter. They were both striking redheads with freckles and big blue eyes. The daughter seemed to be about the same age as my girls, and the mother was a hard-to-determine age, but must have been around mine based on her daughter's age. The girls were pressed against me in the jacuzzi, my arms were on their shoulders, and there was plenty of space. They said hello and climbed inside. The girls and I continued talking, leaving them alone. I said something funny, and the girls laughed and both kissed me on the cheek. I looked through the jacuzzi, meeting my mother's gaze. She looked very stern and judgmental, and there was a frown on her face. What the hell was going on? I quickly looked away. Kat somehow sailed and met her daughter. They started talking and Liv got involved too. I was too embarrassed to talk to my mother after her angry look, so I just relaxed, leaned my head back, and closed my eyes. I felt the girls come back to me, and I hugged them again. I opened my eyes, and my daughter was right in front of me. Dad, this is Audra, Liv introduced. She is transferring to our university, but she is 1 year younger. I heard a snort from the other side of the jacuzzi. Then Mom started giggling. Mother? Audra asked. My God, I'm so embarrassed, my mother said. She slid off the bench and walked over to Kat as Audra took a seat next to Liv. I am Bach, she extended her thin hand. I shook him. Musician, huh? I said. I was really proud of that line. This brought out another cute giggle from her, and the girls giggled madly. I would like to, she said. My mother was like that, and that's how I got that ridiculous name. Oh, well, I'm Daniel, and these two scoundrels are Olivia and Catalina, my daughters, I said. So I got ready, she said. I'm sorry, but I'm a terrible person, and I sat there, shocked that a married man was there, hugging these two beautiful young women. How did you know that I was married? I asked. Yeah, Dad, it looks like it's on your wedding ring, Kat said. Oh, yes, I guess I do. I forgot. Unfortunately, these are my daughters, and although I love them with all my heart and would really like to hug two women who were not like that, I will make do with them until I can exchange them." This made me laugh again. Liv and Kat leaned forward and nodded at each other. Each of them whispered to the girls on both sides, and everyone switched places. Instead of two gorgeous blondes, I now had two gorgeous redheads. We're kind of like Jenny's dad. Liv could hardly get it out of her mouth, giggling. "However, you only have one wish." "I'm very impressed with your abilities," I said. "What brings you ladies to our humble abode?" I asked. "We're moving here," Audra said. "Our apartment is not ready yet, so we will stay here for 2 weeks." "You obviously live here if your daughters go to school here," Bach said. "Are you just relaxing? Is your wife with you?" "It's kind of a story," Kat said. "Maybe we'll leave it for another day. And Mom is not here. She and Dad are kind of separated." Bach looked at me. "Okay, this is a little unclear, but okay." "My father lives in New Jersey," Audra said. "He and Mom are divorced." She was obviously a very trusting young woman. "We'll just stay here until we find another place," Liv said. "Tomorrow evening, we are going to look at another apartment. If you want, Audra, you can come with us to school tomorrow. We will show you everything." Audra seemed to like the idea, and they agreed. Neither of them seemed awkward sitting next to me with my arms around them, and I certainly wasn't going to complain. They were great. They had such clear red skin, these amazing blue eyes, and were very friendly and talkative. By the time we returned to our suite, they seemed like old friends. Bach was looking for a job. She was an accountant, and I promised to ask around to see if I knew anyone. We agreed to meet for dinner the next evening and went our separate ways. The work went by quickly, and we met Bach and Audra in the hotel restaurant. It turned out to be as good as advertised. After dinner, we had a meeting to look at one of the townhouses, and Liv invited Bach and Audra to come with us. They seemed excited, so we all got into the Trackhawk and went house hunting. The agent met us and showed us around. It had its own entrance, a garage, and there was a small private yard and garden. The neighbors were from the west, but not from the east, where there was a lawn and a garden. The girls loved it outside, and I was impressed too. When we walked in, the first floor had a living room, kitchen, laundry room, office, family bathroom, and master bedroom. There were 2 large bedrooms and a bathroom on the second floor, and another bedroom on the third. It was very good, and all 4 girls fell in love with him. "Do we need to watch another one?" I asked. "I can't imagine liking it more," Kat said. Liv agreed. "Same thing," she said. "This seems ideal to me." We talked to the agent, and I signed some documents. She promised to complete all the other paperwork and promised that everything would be ready in a week. We got back in the Jeep, and I took them out for ice cream. Deeth girls took Audra to school with them twice, and we all had dinner together for 3 of the next 5. I really became comfortable with Bach and Audra. The girls met their mom for lunch, as promised. Weather. I realized that things didn't go very well. "She lives in some kind of fantasy world," said Kat. "She thinks she can explain everything to you, to us, and that she can have lovers, have all this excitement. You guys just have sex with whoever you want, and everything will be fine with our family." "Okay. What did you say?" I asked. "I told her she was delusional," Liv said. I chuckled. "Was it a big success?" She smiled sadly. "Not really. She wants to talk to you, Dad. She says she doesn't want a divorce." Kat told her she was probably going to get it, and she got angry and left. "Are you going to talk to her?" the cat asked me. "Yes, I will talk to her a lot," I said. "I'm done with her, girls, but she's your mom, so we'll have to talk to her. There will be a lot of talk about divorce." "Well, I'll talk to her," said Kat. "We're not going to hang out, though. If that's what Livy wants, that's fine." "I don't know," Olivia said. "For what? She's our mom, Kat, and we sort of owe her something. Mom and Dad took care of us all our lives. Honestly, we both depended more on you than on her dad. Always. She always dumped our shit on you. You took us to our games, dance lessons, and went to school conferences with us." Yes, I know, said the cat. That said, if we had a friend who felt the same way about dad as mom, would we want to hang out with them? I would block them all and not communicate with them. Never. I sighed. I love you so much. You are my children, and I am so grateful to have you. I understand how you feel. She's your mother, and I'll be polite to her, but we're not going to be polite. Friends, just like you said, Cat. I rented a truck, and we came home while Pat was at work and packed up all our stuff and took it to the townhouse. This led to another round of calls and messages, and the girls met her again for lunch. The next time I saw her was at her lawyer's office. Angela Abbott and I went there to discuss the divorce with them. It was as difficult and traumatic as you can imagine. Pat insisted that she didn't want a divorce. She would fight it, seek advice, and do all the usual maneuvers. Her lawyer, Sam Roberts, seemed to represent her well. He was not expressing hatred or confrontation, just stating her position. Abbott, my client doesn't want a divorce, he said. She never asked for a divorce and believes that this marriage should continue. She believes that with the help of counseling, a marriage can be saved. Yes, we understand that this is her position, Angela said. This is not my client's position. He offered to go to counseling with her before she cheated. She refused. Now he also refuses. Do you think that the court will not require counseling? He asked. I think it's unlikely, she said. As you know, this is rare in our state, and we are not a state that requires it. Considering your client's infidelity and the absence of minor children, this is extremely unlikely. There is no way that my client will agree to reconcile and remain married to his wife. Daniel, if only you. Pat began, but both lawyers stopped her. I said nothing. I wrote a note and gave it to Angela. She looked at it and frowned at me. I don't recommend doing this, she said. Are you sure? I nodded. We need to do financial disclosures, she told Roberts. They exchanged documents, and Angela passed my note to Roberts. He read it, nodded, and we left. Don't do anything stupid, she told me before leaving. Take someone with you. Not your daughters, just as a witness. I reported to the girls when I returned, and they suggested that I take Bach with me. No, I wouldn't be comfortable with that, I said. I don't even know how to ask her. Bach and Audra had moved out of Adams, but we still met for dinner on Fridays, and Audra seemed to become the girls' best friend. She was around almost every day, and I began to know her very well. It turned out that I actually knew someone who needed an accountant, and he hired Bach on the spot. Audra said she enjoys the job and is doing a good job. Bach is delighted to work every Friday. The girls and I went furniture shopping, chose everything, and moved into a townhouse. They occupied 2 bedrooms on the second floor, and there was a guest room on the third. Audra spent several nights there. I invited Bach to dinner on Wednesday night and asked if she could meet Pat with me after the girls had been asking for it for 2 weeks. I was very nervous about it, but she acted like it was no big deal. We had a nice dinner, and she looked great as always. She was cheerful, easy to talk to, and very smart. I decided that her ex-husband had to be an idiot to let her go. I messaged Pat and agreed to meet her for lunch. I picked up Bach, and she seemed to put in a little more effort. She was great, and I wondered how Pat would react to it. She did well, as it turned out. In fact, it pretty much cemented my position. I introduced them when Bach and I arrived. Pat was already there, and we were quickly seated. We ordered, and Pat immediately entered into conversation. How did you meet Daniel Bach? She asked. We met at the hotel where we were both staying, Bach said. Our daughters go to the same school and are very close friends. Are you and Daniel very close friends? Asked Pat. I saw the sparkle in Bach's eyes. I think so, she said. If you are asking whether we are lovers, the answer is, it is none of your business. I was surprised Pat didn't explode after that. Well, I'm still his wife, she said. But maybe I asked the wrong person. Maybe, but it's not a problem, Pat, I told her. You're the wrong person to ask. You've lost any right to ask about what I'm doing after your little club trip. This is a story I need to hear, Bach said. I could say it's none of your business, Pat said, but I won't. You're probably about my age, Bach. Have you ever felt old, unattractive, like the best years of your life were behind you? Have you ever felt like your husband is the only one who finds you attractive, and he only does it because he looks at you through rose-colored glasses of love? Yes, the first part, but my husband didn't look at me through some kind of tinted glasses, said Bach. He would look at other women through his X-ray glasses of lust and undress them with his eyes before attempting to actually undress them. But it seems you wanted to say something important. I'm sorry to hear that, Pat said. I wanted to get the point across. For 5 years I felt like this. I needed to know that men other than Daniel found me attractive. I realized this sounds insecure and irrational, but that was how I felt. Why didn't you say this? I asked. She sighed. I told you, Daniel. You always brushed off my feelings, told me I was beautiful, and tried to heal my sadness. This helped for a while. Bah, I wanted Daniel and I to go to a sex club. I didn't really think about sex. I wanted Daniel and I to go and see what it was like, to see if I was really attractive to other people. I thought if we went there, I would see someone making advances at me, inviting me into private rooms. I would get rid of these thoughts if they did. I don't pretend to understand, Bach said. If your husband finds you attractive, why should you worry about what others think? Pat shrugged. I guess I'm so insecure. I asked, begging Daniel to go. The more I asked, the more I tried to explain, the angrier he became. It made me angry, and eventually I just thought, okay, he'll never agree. I found a friend of a friend who took me with him. Everything got out of control. That's the whole story. That's one story, I said. The real story, from my point of view, is a little different. Our dishes arrived, and we were interrupted for a while. Okay, let's hear your story, Danielle, Pat said. I remember it quite clearly, I said. I asked you if you planned to contact anyone there, and you said something like, not right away. After we get used to the place, we will discuss it. That's another story, said Bach. This is a continuation of the same story, said Patricia. Well, if we continue with the stories, I said, I also remember something like, I'm not answering you. This will happen. Patricia shrugged. I told you I was furious. I'm sorry. Me too, I told her. You have your own point of view. She's the only one that matters to you. I have my own, and mine says you hurt me in the worst possible way, showed me I'm not your boss, went and slept with someone, maybe many, and expected me to just accept it. I won't do this. I'm moving on, Pat. I suggest you do the same. Okay, I'm sorry to tell you, but it looks like we're at an impasse here, Bach said. What do you say we just enjoy lunch and talk about something else? I just want to say I'm not a hypocrite, Pat said. If you two are lovers, I agree with that. It wouldn't be a problem. God, you're beautiful, Bach. Bach blushed slightly. Thank you, but we are not together, and we do not intend to be. I raised an eyebrow at her. Sorry, Daniel. No, I'm really not sorry. You're a great guy, and I hope we can be very close friends, but not in the way Patricia meant. If I was interested in someone, you would be at the top of the list. I met someone. I am very interested in getting to know her, and it seems that she is also interested in me. Oh, Pat and I said at the same time, and all three of us laughed. I understand, I said. I really had no expectations, and I really want to be your very close friend. I love your daughter, Bach. I turned to Pat. She has an amazing daughter. They are very similar, and Audra is always at our house with Liv and Kat. She loves you too, said Bach. I know she also loves Olivia and Catalina. About them, said Pat. Do you think you could help me out a little, Daniel? They barely talk to me. I'm sorry I said you turned them against me, by the way. I didn't turn them against you, I said. I encouraged them to talk to you, but I didn't pressure them. They are grown women and will do what they want. I will not dissuade them, but fixing your connection is your task, not mine. She nodded. Fair. I'm not going to give up, Daniel. I want you back, but for this a lot must change. It's just not worth it, I said. Let's move on, remember. We talked about other things, and soon Bach and I went our way, and Pat went his way. As I drove Bach back to her office, I thanked her. I'm sorry I got you into all this drama, I said. She stroked my hand. Don't worry, she said. I told you that Audra loves you. I love you too, Daniel. You and the girls have been so good to us. I was glad to help. I leaned over and hugged her, and she kissed my cheek. As it turned out, we remained close. She took over the accounting for my business, and we had lunch together at least once a week. Audra spent almost as much time at our house as at theirs. Over the course of a year, I felt like I'd known them my whole life, and we did a lot of different things together. My girls somehow established a relationship with their mother, and I learned about meetings with her by chance from time to time. They never mentioned it to me, and I didn't ask. The divorce dragged on, although it took much longer than it should have. Pat sent me a card for my birthday and another for Christmas, but I never replied. Receiving the final notice was a big relief. Audra graduated from college with a forensic accounting degree in 2 years and enrolled in business school to pursue an MBA. The Bach company was expanding, and they showed great interest in Audra. Olivia and Catalina were in their senior year, and I had all the usual thoughts a parent has. They will find a job, a partner, and move. I wasn't looking forward to it, but that's life. You can't keep your children small forever. I met a Bach girl, a cute little brunette named Molly. I liked her right away. The girls liked her too, and she became part of our clan. Shortly after finishing Audra, I started noticing something. She would visit our house, and the girls would say that they needed to go somewhere, leaving Audra and me alone. We were friends, and it wasn't awkward, but it seemed like Liv and Kat were coming up with things that needed their attention. Audra and I would have dinner together, go to the movies, drink beer, or just watch movies at home. She went to the same gym as me, and we often trained together. When we first met, she was beautiful, but quite tall and very slim. I noticed that the training was producing results. She became stronger. She had muscles on muscles, and the clothes she wore made it clear that there was a package of dynamite inside. Her butt was magnificent. Her legs were strong and beautiful. She had better abdominal muscles than me. It was good for the ego to walk into the gym with her and see all the guys watching. It was the same in a bar or club. She was a very physical girl, constantly hugging me, holding my hand, or holding my waist as we walked. I came home from work one Friday, and the girls said they had dates. I showered and changed, wondering what to make for dinner when Audra walked in. I looked up from the couch where I was sitting, thinking about dinner, and gasped. Damn it, she looked great. She was wearing a gold dress that fitted her like a second skin. Her hair was styled in a very elegant hairstyle, and on her graceful neck was a gold chain and large gold earrings. The dress left her shoulders bare, the sleeves went straight from her neck. It was very short and had a slit on one side that gave a glimpse of one beautiful thigh. Hello, honey, I said. You look great. Do you have a date tonight? She came and kissed me, then stood in front of me and turned around. Like? She asked. Oh yeah, you'll knock your socks off looking like this. A special case. I hope so, she said. Do not know yet. Do you have any plans? No, I was just thinking about dinner, I said. I have a reservation. She tilted her head a little, as she always did when she was about to ask something. Will you come to dinner with me, Daniel? I was always ready for this. I'll need to change, I told her. She glanced at her phone. Will it take more than 30 minutes? We have 45, and it takes us 15 minutes to get there. I hurried, pulled on black trousers, a pink Oxford shirt, black shoes, and sprayed myself with cologne. I looked in the mirror. I didn't look the same as Audra, but I didn't look bad either, I thought. Smiling at my own narcissism, I was ready in 20 minutes. She was drinking orange juice in the kitchen when I came out, and I offered her my hand. Your chariot is waiting, I said. She laughed. She had a sweet laugh. It turned out that she took me to a seafood restaurant, and it was delicious. I ate shrimp, and she ate crab legs. I peeled them for her and served the pieces, dipping them in oil, and we had fun. I asked her about dessert, and she refused. "What I really want is for you to take me to dance," she said. This was something new that we had never done before. She knew where she wanted to go and gave me directions. There was a line at the entrance, but she simply ignored it, and the guard let us inside. "How did you arrange this?" I asked. "I went to school with him and said that maybe I'll come," she said. "Ah, it's useful to know people," I remarked. She gave me a beaming smile. We ordered drinks, found an empty table, and sat down. As soon as I was settled, she moved closer to me and put my hand on her bare shoulders. She looked up at me. "Remember when we first met?" she asked. "I remember," I said, "at Adams." She nodded. "Remember when Liv switched places with me and we sat exactly like this?" "Yes. I was the happiest man in town," I said. "You are on one side, Bach is on the other." She laughed. "Well, she's not here today, so it's just me." She drained her drink. "Dance with me, Daniel." I was happy to dance with this beautiful woman. I was surprised she knew how to dance. I took all these classes with Pat, and Audra knew all the moves. Plus, she was athletic, very coordinated, and moved like a dream. We danced 2 quick numbers, and then the DJ played an old song, "When a Man Loves a Woman." I looked at Audra, and she raised her hands expectantly. I pulled her close to me, and she snuggled into my arms. She was the perfect height. In her heels, she was almost as tall as me, and she tilted her head, resting her cheek on my shoulder as we moved to the beat of the music. "I love dancing with you, Daniel," she whispered. "Do you like me?" "I love you, honey," I told her. "I fell in love with you as soon as we met." "Me too," she said quietly. Her head lifted, and she looked into my eyes. They were an amazing shade of light blue that faded to gray, and in the light they seemed almost silvery. She looked like she wanted a kiss. I gave her a light kiss, but she grabbed my head with her hands and pulled me into a kiss that made me dizzy. She pulled back a little and looked carefully into my face. She seemed pleased with what she saw. "I really love you so much, Daniel, and I know you love me too, but that's not exactly what I meant. I meant, do you like me? Do you think I'm funny, smart, sexy? I spend time with you all the time, and you seem to enjoy my company. Why don't you ever ask me out? Do you think I'm too young for you? That I'm not mature enough?" I was stunned. I saw tears begin to form in her eyes, and it terrified me. "No, honey, don't cry. God, yes, I think about all this. I had no idea that you wanted me to treat you this way. I always thought I was more of a father figure to you." "You are," she whispered in my ear. "You are more than that. Kat and Liv know how I feel about you. They were kind of helping me so you could get to know me better." I laughed. I knew something was wrong here. "You are so naughty." "I was dying trying to get your attention," she said. "My mom thought I had a chance, so I just kept trying. Tonight I was kind of desperate and impatient. Do you think you can love me? I mean, more than just friends?" I didn't know what to say. I was as stunned as ever. She was probably the most beautiful woman I had ever seen, but I never even thought or dreamed that she might be interested in me romantically. I could see that she was about to cry again because I was acting so awkward. I couldn't let that happen, so I hugged her tightly, then dragged her back to the table. She sat down and I pressed myself close to her. "This is a shock to me, honey," I told her. "You've obviously thought about it, and you'll have to give me time to get over the shock of you being interested in me in this way. Are Kat and Liv okay with this?" "Oh yes," she said. "They think it will be a bomb." At first I was afraid to tell them, but they were crazy with delight. "Well, I'll tell you what, I think you're an angel," I said. "God, Audra, you're so beautiful, so sweet, I just never. You're so." She interrupted me mid-sentence, turned my face towards her, and illuminated me with another kiss. I could barely breathe when she let me go. "You were going to say so young, weren't you?" she said. I laughed. "Yeah, sorry." "I know how old you are, and I know how old I am," she said. Believe me, Daniel, it doesn't matter to me. I've never dated guys my age. To be honest, she admitted, I haven't dated much since we moved here. I've been waiting for you to ask me out. I'm so sorry I didn't do that, I said. I love you already, Audra. It won't take me long to fall in love with you. I'll try to make sure of that, she said. Cool, what's your plan? I asked. Well, that was the beginning, she said. I'm going to take you out dancing a few more times, and then I'm coming to your house. The coming to your house part made my heart beat faster, if she meant what I thought. We finished dancing a few more times, and then I remembered that her car was left at our house. Perhaps that's what she meant. I suffered from uncertainty all the way home. She answered that question as I opened the door for her. Watching those long, elegant legs come out of the car, she stood up and kissed me again before walking up the steps. She had her own key, but she waited until I opened the door. Carry me, she ordered, and we both laughed. As you say, princess, I said, picking her up. She was heavier than I expected. Her arms wrapped around my neck, and I closed the door with my foot behind us. Where do you want me to put you? She pointed to my bedroom. My heart started beating again. Is it true? She nodded. Oh God, honey. I don't remember how we crossed the living room and entered my bedroom. I placed her by the bed and just watched as she looked around my room. She apparently approved of it. She turned her back to me and took an object out of her hair. The hair was curled and time slowed down for me as all those flames began to cascade down, waves of soft silkiness, fire flowing down under that fantastic ass. I think it was the most erotic sight I have ever seen. I approached her from behind, hugged her, and she looked at me over her shoulder, her eyes silver in the moonlight. I moved her hair to the side and kissed the side of her neck, feeling her slight trembling. You are so beautiful and dear to me, I whispered in her ear, pinching it and causing another shiver. She raised her hair. Unbuckle me, Daniel. I hesitated a moment, but managed the clasp of her dress, then slowly lowered the zipper, letting the back of my hand slide down her back, through her bra, down the silken skin, to the dimple of her back, just above the curve of her buttocks. She turned to face me, and the top of the dress fell to reveal a lacy white bra. I knew she had breasts, but what I saw took me by surprise. Creamy skin filled the cups, full and inviting. I leaned down and kissed the top of her breasts before returning to her lips. She smelled delicious in both places. She pulled the ends of my shirt, unbuckled my belt, and unbuttoned my pants. They fell, and I moved my hands to slide her dress down towards my pants. I pressed myself against her, wrapped my arms around her, and gently lowered her onto the bed. She had her bra fastened at the front, and I carefully separated the cups, admiring her beauty. Her breasts were magnificent. Let's just enjoy you, baby, I whispered. You're so perfect. No, she said. It's an interactive girlfriend experience. I want to play too. I laughed. My type of girl. She sat up, threw my shirt towards the closet, pushed me back, and settled on top of me. Then we moved on to sex. This woman was the sex of the century. I was standing in the kitchen making bacon and pancakes for breakfast when she walked in wearing one of my Oxford shirts and panties. A woman in a man's button-down shirt always looks incredibly sexy, and she was no exception. She snuggled up behind me, hugging me as I flipped the bacon. A few minutes later, Liv and Kat came in, saw us together, and rushed towards us, hugging both of us, laughing like crazy. Hooray, said Kat. I knew it. He loves you, Audra. Audra only pressed herself closer to me. Player 3 enters the game, Liv said, and all three laughed again. I laughed. Sorry for my old age, but is this an internal meme? It's kind of a meme, Audra explained. Olivia ran to get her phone, and they showed me funny memes about people having disagreements and a third party interfering. The memes were deep, and they were funny as hell. I just stood there, thinking about how my life had changed, my three girls sitting on the bar, laughing together and giggling together. Audra would pause in her conversation to look at me, smile, kiss my lips, and seeing them all together, my wonderful daughters, and my beautiful little lover, I knew I was the luckiest person in the world. I knew there would be problems. The age difference came first among them, but given the love I had for her in my heart, and the way she clearly felt towards me, as well as the relationship I had with her mother and she with girls, I was pretty sure that the third player was in the game forever. Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one.